What the heck is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your show hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I am joined by just one of my gaming dads, but it's Parris Lilly this week, back again. Parris, it is fantastic to have you. Of course, I missed you last week, but Gary filled in quite well with Shannon Liao from IGN. How are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, sir. It's been quite the week, so looking forward to this episode.
I'm happy to have you back, Parris, and I'm glad. I know it's been a long week, but it's going to be a fun one here today on the show because we have a very special guest that I'm really awesome and excited to have on. It is, of course, Rebekah Valentine, the senior reporter from IGN. She's an award-winning reporter. She's done it all. She's been there. She talks about it all in the video game world. Rebekah, how are you today?
I am delighted to finally be sitting in this chair. I've been in the studio multiple times, but I've never sat at the shiny desk.
You're at the big shiny desk on the big Xbox green wall, and you get to talk all things Xbox with us.
With Parris spiritually hovering behind me.
Yeah, it's an interesting feel with Parris behind you, is right.
It.
How are you today, Rebekah?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy you're here. Of course, you have done a fantastic job covering all of the big Microsoft v. FTC court case news this past couple of weeks for IGN. So thank you for all of that. You've given us plenty to talk about, and I know the audience plenty to read and educate themselves on because this has been a big one.
Oh, yeah.
It has been a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years since we've started this, and we are happy for it to be maybe over. And that's what we're going to talk about with you.
We'll see.
But first, I want to just get to know you a little bit, of course, because our audience at KindaFunny might know who you are, but they might not know. So I first want to start off with the easy one. What have you been playing lately?
Ooh, okay. Tears of the Kingdom is a Nintendo thing. We're not talking about that here, but I've been in a slump since I finished that because I just what do you play to follow that up? So I've been sort of dabbling around, and Imran Khan, who KindaFunny people know, my fiance, introduced me to Ghost Trick.
Oh, okay.
Which just got a remaster, I guess. It's a remaster. It was used to be a Nintendo DS exclusive, and now it's on everything. Like, they put it on consoles, it's on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, whatever. And it's from the writer of the Ace Attorney games. And you're a dead guy, and you're his little ghost, and you've been given ghost powers, but you don't remember anything. You don't remember how you got dead. Someone seems to have killed you, probably. And you can manipulate objects like a little poltergeist. And you can also, you can't do it for yourself, but you can find someone else who's died, and you can rewind back to 4 minutes before their death, and then use your little ghost tricks to try and stop them from dying. And you get involved in this whole mystery as you're trying to figure out who you are and why you got killed. And I finished it 2 nights ago. It's really good, guys. Ghost Trick, bring it back. They did.
I like that.
That's good.
That's a really good rundown because I've seen a lot of trailers for this at the different showcases we've seen over the summer. And every time I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of interested in this, but I need a little bit more. You gave me that little bit more. So maybe that's the push I need to check it out.
It's very good. It's bite-sized. Are you a dog person?
Oh, who isn't? I love dogs.
There is a very good dog character in this game. A really phenomenal dog. Shout out to Missile the dog.
Okay.
We love
Missile the dog. I like that, Rebekah. Okay, great call out. Parris, what have you been playing lately? I haven't gotten enough Parris Lilly in my life. What have you been playing?
You know, it's interesting because I've been, I was on the episode last week because I've been traveling for work. So I've been kind of busy doing that. So I haven't really played much at all. I did jump in, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I did look to download the demo for Sea of Stars because, the ID at Xbox stuff. So I'm really looking forward to checking that out. My thing, like I was saying the last time, I just played just a ton of Hades. I don't know why that just came out of nowhere for me, but that's my hook. And I think it's because, I reviewed the ROG Ally. That's where I started playing it on. And then that just kind of morphed into me playing it on the Xbox and playing it on the PC as well. But that's kind of been my main thing.
Can't go wrong with some good Hades runs. No. Anytime. No. It's colorful, it's beautiful, it's fast, it's fun, it's punishing. It's a good game.
I know a lot of people who have just sort of circled back to it over the last, I don't remember how long it's been since it came out, but it seems very replayable, I guess, in certain ways, or just a good little handheld guy.
Yeah. And of course, Hades 2
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, right around the corner.
Looming.
So it's coming. It's right. I've been playing a lot of Dave the Diver. Of course,
Tell
not
me
currently
more.
on Xbox, but I'm telling you, Dave the Diver's the game you got to jump into right now. Deep sea exploration mixed with a sushi restaurant management sim.
I'm sorry, what?
It's crazy. So during the daytime, you have 2 opportunities to go deep sea fishing, or really you become Scuba Steve and you go down in the depths, and there's a lot going on in the deep blue. Of course, you're gathering fish for your sushi restaurant, but there's also a ancient civilization that's underwater. The water every single time you go in is a new set and a different build and loadout. So it's really cool to explore during the day. And then at night, you go back to your sushi restaurant, you work with your head chef, and you actually drop food off at tables, kind of like root beer tapper. You can hire staff. You can pick the menu items. You can build out the sushi restaurant to different looks. It is a really awesome and fun game.
I feel like I'm being pranked. This is what this game is?
Yes.
Because I've seen so many people raving about it on Twitter, like Dave the Diver, Dave the Diver, Dave the Diver. No one has actually told me what it was, and I did not bother to look. I cannot believe that's what this is.
It is time to check out Dave the Diver if you are able to. I'm playing it on Steam, so I know, we're an Xbox community here, but if you have the chance, you should definitely check this game out. It is well worth your time and a ton of fun.
Gosh, this mixture.
That's awesome.
This mixture of like sushi restaurant management sim, but then I watched the trailer and there's like big guns and sharks.
Yes.
Whoa.
You're going
All
to
right.
love it. Check it out. Rebekah, back to you, though. I want a little talk about your, of course, investigative journalism and being a senior reporter at IGN. It's such a cool title, a lot of cool words in there. I know you're doing a lot of great stuff. We just talked about your report with Perfect Dark. Last week, we brought it up and had a small conversation about that. So shout out to you, talking about the initiative and the Perfect Dark and where Xbox players can kind of get a gist of where we stand with that. But what got you into all of that? What made you say, I want to investigate video games, media and video games itself?
It was truly like an accident, like a wonderful accident. I had been freelancing and just blogging about video games in my spare time. I was working as a technical writer. I got degrees in English and philosophy, so I liked research. I liked reading complex things and translating them for like audiences who maybe didn't want to read those complex things necessarily, like technical manuals and things, and that's kind of what I was doing. And then I had been just doing like blogging and casual games writing, reviews, things like that, and I was applying for jobs, just job after job after job, and couldn't get anywhere. And I ended up getting hired at gamesindustry.biz in 2018, which is a business site. And they were specifically looking for someone who was like, a good writer, which, I mean, I'm not, trying to brag, but I can write. I write clean copy. And who had like this very like weird particular set of skills that I had. And so I started doing games business journalism. And that sort of naturally ended up dovetailing into reporting, because the thing about the games business is it's very, very secretive. Companies don't like to tell us what they're up to. And so it sort of naturally turned into learning a lot about journalism from Brennan Sinclair over there and James Batchelor and Matt Handrahan and them kind of teaching me how to, when I don't know the answer to a question that I want to answer for our audience, how to find that information. And, it starts by just emailing people and asking them. But then, sort of evolves a little bit further into tracking people down and doing research and reading through legal documents and interviewing people and all these other things. And so I started doing like little miniature reports for them, and they got bigger and bigger. And then I started acquiring sources, and now people show up in my inbox with tips, and it's very scary. And now I write for IGN.
Pretty incredible stuff right there. And also shout out to the gamesindustry.biz crew. Those are some great names you just brought up. Awesome people to learn with and grow with.
They do amazing work over there. I love my current job. I also miss them a lot.
Well, Rebekah, of course, we brought you on because you will bring the realness. You're going to educate me and Parris and our audience what's going on with this FTC versus Microsoft court that just went down for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and now we have our final answer. We know what's happening, but you're going to bring the real. But before that, you were covering it all week long. Mm-hmm. How was that? Tell me one interesting thing that you took away from that experience before we jump into the show.
Really? I get one interesting thing that I took away from being in the courtroom?
Give me one.
Microsoft lawyer Beth Wilkinson has great blazers.
Okay. That's a great one right there.
Oh, no, here's a better one. Phil Spencer looks good in a suit. There you go.
We don't get to see him many times in a suit, but he did dress up.
I was very into courtroom fashion while I was there.
Well, we're going to talk about all things that went down in the courtroom and the final verdict that now has been released to the public and beyond in just a couple of moments. But of course, I have to tell you that this is the Kind of Funny Xcast we post each and every Thursday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Do me a favor, if you're watching over on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of Rebekah's jacket game today, since we're talking all things fashion and, of course, courtroom fashion today on the podcast. And if you're listening on podcast services, don't forget you can help support the team by rating the podcast. Maybe give me 5 stars or give me the real. Let me know what you think of the podcast so we can continue to improve and give you the best product possible here at Kind of Funny. And talking about support, don't forget you can help support the team here at Kind of Funny right now via the Epic Games Store. If you're buying games off the Epic Games Store or upgrading your look in Rocket League, Fortnite, or Fall Guys, please use our Epic creator code KindaFunny at checkout to help support the team in a brand new way. And we always like to thank those who support us over on Patreon. If you're supporting on Patreon, maybe you'll get a bevy of ad-free shows, awesome exclusive content, and of course, get your name read like our Patreon producer for the month of July, Delaney Twining. Thank you so much for your support, Delaney Twining. And this week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Bird Dogs, but I'm going to tell you all about that in just a little bit. Rebekah, Parris, it's time to celebrate, ladies and gentlemen. After days, weeks, months, years, Microsoft can now buy Blizzard Activision King. That means I'm getting Call of Duty. That means I'm getting Crash Bandicoot. That means Game Pass is going to be the best deal on the video game world. That means everything's going down. Right, Rebekah?
Probably.
Okay, yes.
Fairly likely, probably. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't introduce the slightest bit of, okay, but here's some things that could happen. But no, yeah, this is probably happening.
So let's talk about it, because earlier this week, before recording, the judge did give the final verdict and did rule in favor of Microsoft, meaning that the deal can close ahead of its July 18th deadline.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But of course, Microsoft still faces an FTC antitrust case and a CMA blockage over across the pond.
Correct.
That correct?
Yes.
Okay. Parris, I'm going to let you get in here before Rebekah schools me on, is this done, and where do we go from here?
That leads right into what I was going to ask, because again, we have a professional here now who can answer these questions. But that is my big thing. Obviously, the judge ruled that they couldn't, do the temporary injunction that would have essentially killed the deal. But 2 questions out of that. It sounds like the FTC potentially could appeal. So what would that mean as far as this July 18th deadline? And then with the CMA, I know it sounds like there's some negotiation going on. I know they've decided to pause litigation, things like that as they talk, but July 18th is right around the corner. So on both fronts, with the CMA and the FTC potentially appealing, what does that mean for this deal? I'm very curious, being a layman.
Okay. So we're going to take this one thing at a time.
Sure.
So let's start with the FTC. So the FTC can appeal Judge Corley's decision. I believe they have to do so by Friday. So clock's ticking, guys. They could do this conceivably, and they could have that appeal accepted or dismissed. I'm kind of actually not super sure what happens from there. It's possible that if they get their appeal, if they appeal and if they get that appeal accepted, then somebody could pause the deal for a shorter period of time than the injunction was supposed to pause it, and everything could just sort of crash like a bunch of cars as people scramble to try to deal with the appeal. I believe there are very specific grounds on which they would have to appeal. I was talking to some analysts. I myself am not a legal expert, but my understanding is that if they were to appeal it, they would have to demonstrate that there was some sort of flaw in Judge Corley's sort of judicial process of dealing with this. And it's pretty unlikely, basically. They can do it. It is a possible avenue. In the recent past, when they had a case against Meta that had a similar fate, where they had an injunction that got denied, the FTC just dropped it in a somewhat similar tech situation. So they can appeal. It doesn't seem likely. It seems far more likely that they'll wait it out until August, when they have their hearing that was already scheduled on the acquisition, which at that point theoretically would have already gone through. Now, that hearing could turn up. It could go one way or the other. Like it kind of doesn't matter at this point because the acquisition will have already gone through. If it's found that the deal is not anti-competitive, whatever, we move on with our lives. But if the FTC finds that it is anti-competitive, then they could potentially attempt to undo the deal that's already been done. That said, Microsoft could then appeal that.
Okay.
And at that point, it would go to the Court of Appeals and then potentially even to the United States Supreme Court if they decided to take the case. Which if we get that far down the line, things get pretty wild. And again, I don't super like the FTC's odds in that situation because if we're getting to the U.S. Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, they're going to be looking at Judge Corley's decision today, where she basically wrote that the FTC did not have its head on straight when it came to video games. And the FTC's odds are not very good here. They've kind of been caught looking a little silly. So they have a couple avenues to try to push this in the other direction, but none of them seem very likely or secure. And so I'm currently, all the people that I've been speaking to have said it's fairly likely the FTC is going to drop it from here on, but we'll see. So the CMA. There's been some reports and some statements made that they are currently in conversations with Microsoft to come up with some sort of agreement that would allow the deal to go through. Now, at this point, it looks like even without that, Microsoft is just going to do it anyway in defiance of the CMA, which, again, not an expert on UK law, but apparently they can do that. I don't really know what the consequences for that are. It probably hinders their business in the UK somehow if they do that. But they are currently in talks with the CMA to come up with some sort of remedy. Now, that remedy is probably not going to be too dramatic because the CMA's issue was not with Call of Duty. It was with cloud gaming specifically. I, again, talked to some lawyers and analysts. Some possibilities on the table could be divesting like a portion of their business in the UK. So basically like having kind of like a separate arm of Activision Blizzardness that is not owned by Microsoft, that is just focused on doing business in the UK, that's like partnered with them but isn't owned by Microsoft. Weird stuff like that. Some people have suggested that they would like sell off Call of Duty, which I think is, I know they made a big point during this case that Call of Duty is not why they're here. They're here for mobile gaming, but I think it very unlikely that Microsoft would let go of Call of Duty just over this. My personal opinion from having talked to a bunch of people is that when the UK made this decision, the CMA made this decision, I think they thought they were being, bold and strong about it. And now they're sort of looking around going, wait, everyone else has approved this deal. We look silly. And there's kind of some ties in with Brexit on there too, like because the EU approved it and the UK didn't. So kind of looking like, oh, what are you doing? You could be harming business in the UK by doing this. Maybe Microsoft is going to pull some of its business out of the UK if you continue to push this. So again, I think it's pretty likely that they come to some sort of agreement with Microsoft that's like fairly soft and not too crazy that lets the deal go through. So I think we're on, it's not a completely smooth road at this stage, but it's going in that direction. And for slightly less stuttery thoughts about this, I did write an article on IGN that actually went up very early this morning where I spoke to 2 analysts and 2 lawyers about what comes next and sort of organized my thoughts there. And I believe we have on IGN coming in the next couple days another piece specifically talking about the CMA situation from Wesleyan Poole, our writer over in the UK. So we got it over there.
Yeah, so I'm glad you explained all of that. I truly appreciate that. My fascination is really more with the CMA portion of this, and a lot of it is what you just said, that from the outside looking in, not being a lawyer, regulator, understanding all the legalese of this, just trying to use some common sense, it would seem to me that the biggest tech acquisition we've ever seen, it can't just be the UK that would stop this. That would just baffle me. And especially to your point, that it's really just over cloud, that whatever, it would seem to me that Microsoft would come back to them and say, hey, what is the concession that you need on cloud? Because we'll freaking do it, because that isn't why we're trying to acquire Activision Blizzard over cloud. So we'd be perfectly fine satisfying that. And to your other point, there seems to be, let's save some face here for the CMA side of this, in that everywhere else in the world, is okay with this except you. Why? So it is, to your point, it almost makes them look silly. So from the outside looking in, it really seems to me that they'll come to some agreement. This will get closed, like you said, by the 18th, and we'll move on. Obviously, whatever the FTC winds up doing in August will happen. But that would be so fascinating to me that if there was some ruling in August, like let's say it closes, Phil, they all come out and say, all right, here's these Activision titles that are now a part of Game Pass, and they have this whole plan, and now we're actually starting to use this stuff, and it goes through this litigation, and then months down the road, they're like, yeah, now you can't do that, we're taking it all away. None of that seems like plausible to me. It seems like this week it'll get resolved, and we'll move on, and then the bigger question for me is, what is going to be the real plan that Xbox has for Activision Blizzard? Because obviously they can't really talk about this until it's official. But once it is official, I would imagine they do something similar like they did when they acquired Bethesda. Kind of senior leadership sits down, talk about, here's the game plan that we have for Activision titles, both obviously on console and PC, but I think more importantly, the mobile portion of this, because I think that's what a lot of us have been understanding now. It's really about the mobile. So what is the mobile strategy once they acquire Activision Blizzard? I'm very fascinated to see it.
Yeah, and I think you absolutely have the right thoughts on all of that, basically. Like I did think it was fascinating that, and this came out of the final ruling, that they went through almost 1 million internal Microsoft documents and couldn't find anybody slyly emailing anyone else and saying, hey, what if we make Call of Duty exclusive, huh? Wouldn't that be fun? Like, it's kind of incredible that, like, look, you kind of got to be careful. Big companies, when they say, hey, we're going to do this for our consumers because we love you so much, don't trust that. Companies want your money. But they have been very sincere in their pledge for Call of Duty, which I think makes business sense. It does make. I think it would be absolute tomfoolery to take Call of Duty off PlayStation.
True.
Ridiculously foolish business move if they did that. So I think at least for the next decade or so, we can trust that they're going to commit to that. And Parris, I think you're absolutely right. That mobile is the big interesting question. I would expect to see lots of money pouring into Activision Blizzard King division, assuming this deal moves forward, which it seems like it will.
Yeah, that's.
I also think. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I also think just on the PC side of this as well. Like I think about World of Warcraft. Like I could see them leveraging PC Game Pass. That hey, if you're a PC Game Pass subscriber, we're gonna give you either you can play World of Warcraft for free or heavily discounted, as an example. So I see a lot of, I'm looking at the camera, something's going on. But yeah, I just see a lot of that potentially could be happening with them acquiring Activision Blizzard across all fronts on console, PC, cloud, and mobile. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
God damn it, guys. The FTC just appealed.
Yeah, I was just trying to.
Well, then there you go.
Well,
There it is.
whatever. Okay.
Okay. So live breaking news right now on the podcast. Rebecca's going to fill us in with what she's got on the information ticker.
Talk about something else while I read this.
Okay, well, yeah, Parris, we'll let Rebecca fill herself in on that, and then she's going to school us. But yeah, Parris, for me, you and I have talked about bolstering the PC side of Game Pass and not only elevating that PC app, right? And like you look at the Blizzard launcher and how successful that is. We talk about the Steam launcher. I am excited to see how everything is elevated with that. And of course, on the PC side of things, what could be, what's up with World of Warcraft? How does that subscription help me, the consumer? Will I get that with Game Pass Ultimate? Do I still have to pay an extra $15 a month or whatever that subscription fee is? I want this to benefit me as the gamer and someone in the Xbox ecosystem. So I am looking forward to that. And it is also interesting, like, what is mobile, right? Like, as someone that doesn't play Candy Crush, isn't a big COD mobile guy, can Xbox and Microsoft interest me, the casual gamer, into mobile? Or is there a larger audience that they're going to really capture with the Xbox Microsoft brand that will now attach themselves to their mobile market and really get excited beyond that, right? Because we talk about that number Phil and the team always throw out of 3 billion gamers or whatever that is, and there's so many that are just on mobile. Can they capture a large part of that audience, get them into this ecosystem they want, and have them playing whatever Microsoft Xbox game, funneling that cash in there?
Right.
So exciting stuff. And of course, when will I, the gamer, like you said, Parris, see the games coming to my Game Pass subscription or see the games? When will the payoff be, right? Because we saw Call of Duty won't be on Game Pass till 2025 is what it said in some of the documents there. Also, like you said, the round table with Bethesda, that happened quite some time. We didn't get Game Pass games day one. It took quite some time to get to that moment. So where would we be?
To correct that a little bit, we looked this up on Games Daily where it was 3 days after the deal closed between Xbox and Bethesda. Classic Bethesda titles were dropping on Game Pass.
Really?
So it was like Fallout 4, a lot of the old school Doom games. So it wasn't like things that are coming out this year, but it was like Dishonored 2 and stuff like that. So I think they're, you could see some like older titles, maybe
the legacy titles, would make
but
sense.
not Diablo 4, because
Probably not Diablo.
Mikey over at Blizzard doesn't seem to want to give it to them.
No. It's selling too well.
Rebecca, fill us in.
There's nothing to be filled in on. The document is 3 pages. 3 pages of them just going, "We appeal."
Okay.
That's it. That's what I got.
Okay.
Call a lawyer. Maybe they can say what happens now. The appeal can get denied.
So I guess the big question from my end would be, what about that July 18th deadline?
Yeah.
Is that going to be the big issue here where they missed the deadline? Can that deadline be pushed? Will they have to renegotiate this deal? What do you think happens there, Rebecca, at all?
I mean, I think like if they've just said we appeal. That doesn't in of itself do anything. So the court has to react to it in some way. If the court doesn't react in time, chat saying there's a deadline by Friday. I don't have a source on that. I don't know. Maybe it's true. It's probably true. The court can deny the appeal, in which case we move forward. If the court accepts the appeal, then they have to like issue some sort of order, which saying like, hey, you can't do this yet or whatever. In which case we basically have the same effect as a preliminary injunction. So I don't know. I hope Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley is having a great day.
See, that's my question on that. Again, complete ignorance. I know nothing on this, how this works, but let's say you're a company, you're trying to acquire another company. The FTC does everything that they've done. They clearly purposely waited to the last minute to do this right before, what the deadline would be. Then you're denied the thing that you're trying to do, and then you appeal it. It would seem to me the appeal would have to be addressed before that deadline. How is that fair to the two companies that are trying to do business if you go past that deadline that was there? You know what if I'm making sense on that? It would seem to me if the 18th is the deadline for Microsoft and Activision, a clear-cut decision on this appeal should be made before then, you would think.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I don't think the FTC is doing this in like a malicious, we're going to strategize and try to cut them off at the last minute way. My impression of the FTC, and especially because of what Judge Corley, said towards the end of that case about them is, it's a government institution. They don't have a crap ton of funding.
Right.
And in order to look, this is one of the biggest acquisitions. This is one of, if not the biggest acquisition, the biggest acquisition in tech history. It takes a lot of work to look at this stuff. And it does. It needs to be looked at. It absolutely does. Like she said in her final ruling, like it deserves scrutiny. And she's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that scrutiny takes time. And so from the moment this deal was announced, I assume the FTC was on it going, okay, like what does this mean? How do we anticipate this? And they got they filed their thing against Microsoft, back in January, February, something like that. It takes time. And so they got there, and then the judicial system is kind of clogged and silly too. So, they set this thing for August. I don't know what goes into how they schedule those things, but I assume that was the soonest they could possibly do it given the deadline. And, this crap happens. And so we're now working on this very weird, tight deadline where everybody's kind of scrambling to see what happens. I still don't think that this appeal is going to slam the brakes on this.
Okay, that's, I don't know, as an Xbox gamer, I hope that's what happens, is right. Very interesting to see.
Corley's whole thing was that the FTC's job was to show up and say, look, there's enough there are enough questions around this deal still that we can't let it go through until we've really had a chance to look at it. That was what she wanted them to prove. And she wrote a multi-page document explaining why they really did honestly a really crappy job of proving that. Like, look, I have anti-competitive questions about this deal myself. I think that in the long term, there are concerns to be had. And the FTC, like multiple times in the courtroom, dipped its toe into them. Like every once in a while, they'd be like, oh, well, we're not worried about Call of Duty next year, but what happens when that 10-year deal expires? What happens to the industry then? What happens to cloud gaming? Like, these sort of big picture questions that, regulators have to consider. But they didn't go nearly hard enough on any of that. They spent hours trying to determine whether or not the Switch was part of the relevant market or not. Whatever, guys. So, yeah, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if this moved forward.
But see, that's kind of my overall thing on this. And, I've purposely tried to not really talk about this a lot over the last 18 months. But now that we're getting more towards the end, and especially, again, you did a fantastic job during that whole trial, because it was very educational for me to kind of see the inside look of how business is done in gaming, right? Both on the Xbox side and on the PlayStation side. And from the outside looking in, I never saw anything in the short term that felt anti-consumer or anti-competitive. But to your point, there is that question, all right, you're signing these 10-year deals. What happens in year 11, right? Mm-hmm. Are you making everything exclusive? But I think another question, I know Greg was talking about this on Kind of Funny Games Daily, I think a couple days ago. The gaming industry, who even knows if Call of Duty is even a relevant title 10 years from now? Right. I think these are the kind of things where it's so hard with this type of acquisition to say, well, sure, you're given a 10-year deal, but then you could just make it exclusive and now you're screwing PlayStation, 10 years down the road. Call of Duty may not even be a thing 10 years down the road. Diablo may not be a thing. World of Warcraft, all the Candy Crush, all these things that they're acquiring may not even be relevant. And it may be that you do need to create new experiences and new IPs with these studios to remain relevant. And maybe PlayStation does that internally, and what Xbox has doesn't matter, or vice versa. So I find a lot of it fascinating that this is happening. But to your point, again, I didn't hear anything that just gave me like, you know what, they really do need to look at this more, because maybe this will hurt the industry as a whole. This will hurt me as a consumer. My thing that I've taken from a lot of this is, sure, Microsoft is going to have control over these Activision IPs, but they've, again, through all the documents, everything that we've seen, they're not taking anything away. My gaming life isn't going to change in the short term at all. If anything, maybe me being a Game Pass subscriber, I'm going to get more value out of these titles eventually being there. But as far as me, like the analogy I use is my neighbor. He plays Madden. He plays Call of Duty. Nothing's changing for him. He's still going to play Madden. He's still going to play, he plays on PlayStation, but he's still going to play Madden. He's still going to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. His gaming life is not going to change because of this decision. And that's kind of the thing that I take from this. I just don't see it hurting us, the consumer, with them acquiring this. But I do understand scrutiny. You again, it's the biggest deal we've ever seen. So you do want to look at it through it with a fine-tooth comb. But here we are at the finish line, and I'm just not seeing anything to say, no, don't do it.
Yeah. And the big thing I think that I wish the FTC had hung its hat on more is capitalism is not altruism. It is, in fact, mostly the opposite of that. And a lot of the reasons why this deal is looking so good for Microsoft is because they are doing what, looks a little bit like altruism, right? Like they're making these 10-year deals with these little cloud gaming companies you've never heard of. They're making these 10-year deals with Nintendo, trying to make them with Valve, trying to make them with Sony, trying to look, we are being very generous. We are entering into contracts to do these things. They wouldn't be doing these things if they weren't sure it was going to benefit them in some way. And you cannot base legal precedent on companies being nice. That's not how it works. Right. Because here's the thing, and here's where I think Jim Ryan strayed so close to making a good point. So close. He didn't quite get there. Let's say 11 years from now, the tables have turned, And Sony is just, oh, we can't release a good game. Nothing. And I mean, maybe turned a little bit dramatically. I love Xbox. We can't release a good game. We're just missing on all the AAA games. We can't get anything out. And Xbox is like, yeah, we're on top. We're selling all the units. We're making all the money. We're doing great. Do we really want to be in a position where Xbox also has Call of Duty and we have to rely on them to just be nice and generous and altruistic to all the little gaming companies and make sure that Call of Duty is kept available to them when they're in a position where having Call of Duty exclusive actually would benefit them? And the answer is no. We don't want to have to rely on them to just be nice like that. I don't know that that's necessarily a likely outcome. I don't think it is. But that's why we got to look at these things to make sure that if we do end up in that future, it's not actually going to completely ruin Sony as a business. It's not going to ruin Nintendo or any other little businesses that try to crop up in the meantime because this decision was made today.
Well, there is so much more to talk about, and we're going to do just that after a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs use anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. I've been going down to the heat of Los Angeles with Gia a lot recently, and I've been loving the breeze thanks to my Bird Dogs. They got Oxford shorts, khaki shorts, bathing suits, and much, much more. My favorites are the Art Farts Knockers, and it's not just because of the name, it's because of the blue. But hey, the name doesn't hurt at all. Art Fart Knocker, come on. Go to birddogs.com/kindafunny or enter code kindafunny for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/kindafunny or use the promo code kindafunny for a free Yeti style tumbler. birddogs.com/kindafunny. Promo code kindafunny.
All right, you two, welcome back. Thank you all so much for listening in and having a good episode with us. Of course, the appeal just went through live while we were talking on the podcast, so we will have a whole lot more on Kinda Funny Games Daily. IGN over with Rebekah will be filling you in on what's next with all of this fun Microsoft versus FTC courtroom drama. But we're not done with the show. We got some fun stuff to talk about. Let's switch gears and let's talk about games that are coming to Xbox in the near future. And we don't have to worry about an APK deal for these games. I can promise you that, because the ID at Xbox Showcase 2023 went down this week, showing off 20 upcoming indie game titles. They teamed up with IGN to celebrate their 10th annual showcase. Pretty incredible, 10 full years. Shout out to Chris Charla and the team over at ID at Xbox. Of course, friend of the show, Stella Chung, got to host that with some IGN employees over there.
Love
Stella. And they did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Stella out there. So, of course, like I said, there's 20 games to go out. Great showcase as well. If you want to check that out, they did a really great job. There's an awesome pre-show run-up. You get the show, and then Stella and the team stick around to show off some games and actually play some of the cool titles, like this one. Vampire Survivors is getting 4-player couch co-op on August 17th. Gary Whitta is freaking out right now. He's not on the show, but I'll bring the energy for him. How dope is that? And we got to see the gameplay with Stella and the team. Vampire Survivors 4-player. I suck at that game, and so I'm super jazzed up to be able to rely on 3 other players to carry me. Rebekah, are you into Vampire Survivors at all?
No, Imran loves it. I have watched him play, and by which I mean I have played something and then glanced over repeatedly and just seen a screen full. I know if I play that game, I will not put it down for a really long time, and I got stuff to do. But it looks so good. It looks so good.
Now with 4 players on the couch, you might be getting lost in it. So get ready.
Maybe I'll play it with
Imran.
One.
Parris, what are your thoughts? Did you see any games that stuck out to you before I give you the big rundown of a lot of games I'm excited for?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, like I was even mentioning earlier, Sea of Stars. I mean, that's, day one. I'm going to be there for that. That's going to be fantastic. Wordless was another one that really stood out to me that I was like, oh, man, this looks really cool. The Hellboy game that's coming, that looks really cool. Actually, the very first one they showed, and that's not till 2024, is a Monolith Requiem of the Ancients.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's right in my wheelhouse. That looks fantastic. Time Jinx looked very interesting to me. Myth Force looked interesting. Soul Estate as well. I mean, there's just so many. There were so many games that they were showing, but those were probably the ones that were highlights for me.
So many good ones. And of course, the highlight, Myth Force is coming to Xbox on September 12th. This is a game that me and the team at KindaFunny have played hours upon hours of. It is a Saturday morning cartoon come to life. It is 80s and 90s early, He-Man type style of cartoons. And it is a fun roguelite where you're going to do a bunch of runs over and over again with your friends. They have 4 unique characters to choose from. You all can play as one character. You can play as 4 different ones. And it is a good time every time you play. So this is a must-play for Xbox fans. Another one I want to shout out, Everspace 2. This trailer was dope, y'all. I am not the biggest pilot jabroni. I usually am not into going into space and piloting around, but I watched this trailer and I was like, man, I can't wait to play this game. So make sure to check out Everspace 2, coming to Game Pass day and date on August 15th, which is exciting. Customizable ships, a lot of different planets to explore, handcrafted planets as well. This is going to be dope. And then on top of that, everybody loves a good horror game. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm super excited about because it's going to switch up the formula. I know we're always down with a little 4v1. This is 3v4, which has got me interested. So, of course, featuring a strategic 3v4 team-based multiplayer game inside the Texas Chainsaw Massacre world, which allows players to truly experience the iconic franchise for the first time in video game history. I'm interested in this because I love a good Dead by Daylight. We loved Predator Hunting Grounds. We liked Evil Dead. I have been scared since a child of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I still have nightmares to this day, and I have to sleep with the TV on at all times. So I'm excited to see how you take a 4v1 and make it 3v4 and make it exciting and fun in this scary, horrific arena of death, which I'm excited for. Yes, very bloody, Rebekah. Very bloody, this video game.
Maybe not for me. Maybe not that one. You can play that.
And then, of course, for all you Fall Guys fans out there, if you're like me and Gary Whitta, Stumble Guys is coming to Xbox. This is a fun game because everybody, I think, really enjoyed Fall Guys. And then we had some kind of, I don't want to call it rip-offs, but we had some different styles of Fall Guy games. And Stumble Guys actually found a really great cadence. Really, really fun style of gameplay. Whether you love Fall Guys and the weird obstacle courses, or if you like unique user-based gameplay created levels, this is it right here. So check out Stumble Guys. Family-friendly, a really fun time, awesome, cute characters, and everything you could ask for from a good game night with your friends. So a lot of dope games. 20 indie titles shown. The 10th anniversary. Congratulations to Xbox and IGN for putting on one great show. Please go check it out if you like. But that leads me to the big question of, man, there's so many games on the horizon. And I need to know, what's everybody's most anticipated game for the second half of 2023? Because there's so many. We talk about all the big titles like Starfield, of course, but I know there's other ones out there. And Rebekah, you and I share one, and I want you to share the hype with me because Baldur's Gate 3 is right around the corner, and I can't wait to play it. Get me excited about it because I know you are.
But so here's the thing. I have tried so hard to know nothing about this game. I did not play the first 2 Baldur's Gates. I did, however, Imran and I, when we were dating long distance, when he was in San Francisco and I was in Kansas City, our date nights consisted of cooking a meal together. We would have the recipe up on our phones and we would go to the kitchen. We would cook the same recipe while on a video call and playing Divinity Original Sin 2. And that game was so good. I freaking loved it. I want more co-op games that have this sort of online co-op that is story focused and lets me play through something as opposed to just jumping into games over and over. And so I'm always like, It Takes Two. Well, that one was local. Or maybe it's also online. But anyway, more co-op games, basically. And I love that this is just not just a full-blown RPG, but basically a tabletop game. And I think nothing exemplifies that more than the fact that the one piece of information I have accidentally, and to my horror, learned about this game is the bear thing that we all learned about this past week.
The bear thing is a good way of describing it.
The bear thing. If you know, you know. Great. But the reason why that's so cool to me is because the idea of Baldur's Gate 3 and the games before it, but especially Baldur's Gate 3, is to emulate a tabletop session. And in a tabletop session, you are very much at the mercy of your own creativity and the creativity of the players around you. And the idea is you can pretty much do anything that you can think of. And that is, it's actually functionally impossible to replicate in a video game environment because you have to basically create scenarios. You have to anticipate every possibility for what a player could possibly think to do in a situation and then create some sort of reward for that. Not necessarily like an item reward, but like a scene or a piece of dialogue or an interaction or something. It has to be there. And you're never going to be able to do that fully, but you can do a lot. And that's what it seems like Larian is doing, exemplified by the bear thing. So I'm real stoked for Baldur's Gate 3.
I can't wait for it right now. Still anticipating an Xbox release date, I believe, as well. So we're waiting patiently on that. But, of course, PC I'm ready to jump right into right away. Do you have any others that you're anticipating and excited for?
Oh, no, I wrote notes, but I don't need them. Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Oh, great pull right there.
I am a big Assassin's Creed 1 fan. Which surprises people about me because I don't seem like an Assassin's Creed 1 fan, but I am. I love the stealth. I loved when Assassin's Creed was more stealth-focused and small and contained in these like little localized, detailed environments. Got really, really into that. Really stoked to see them going back to those roots with Mirage. I've been wanting them to do it for so long. I really liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but it was too big. It was too big and overwhelming. I didn't even play Valhalla. It was too much. So this, Mirage, is for me.
Great pull. Parris, give me one or two that you're excitedly anticipating.
Well, before I even say this, I was talking about I've really been playing a lot of Hades lately. It's because I almost feel like these next couple months are the calm before the storm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're going to, from August into November, it is just... There's no way I'm going to be able to play all these games. It is literally impossible. There's so many games that I want to play that I'm just simply not going to have the time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you three because these are my three most anticipated games as we go into the holiday. Obviously, Starfield,
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
After that direct, who isn't? Spider-Man 2. I can't wait to experience that story. Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I'm so in for a new 2D Mario game. I cannot wait to play that game. But then, like Rebekah's saying, I want to play Assassin's Creed Mirage. I want to play Forza Motorsport. I want to do Mortal Kombat 1. NBA 2K24, that new Kobe. I'm in. Like, there's so many things that I want to play that are coming out. Alan Wake 2.
Yes.
It's impossible. It's impossible. And look, we already know it's coming. Call of Duty. There's gonna be new Call of Duty too. Like, there's so many things that are coming out this holiday that it's an incredible year. It just absolutely is. But those would probably be my three most anticipated. But the rest of them are not far behind at all. I will say again, that 10-day stretch in October is chaos. If you're into gaming, it has to be the most incredible 10 days of gaming ever. It has to be. How could it not be? What? Forza, Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Sonic Superstars, Spider-Man 2, and something I'm not even thinking of are all in that 10-day window. That's crazy.
How exciting. The year of dreams, as Tim Geddes has been calling it.
Yeah.
So many games to look forward to. And we didn't even talk about the one I'm anticipating, Payday 3.
Oh,
I'm so excited to jump into Payday.
Is that finally is that this year?
It's coming out, and I actually got to play it. They took me behind closed doors. I had a very special session with the team to go check it out. So they took us on 2 different heists, and we failed each time.
Great.
We got into big gunfights because I accidentally threw a grenade and blew up the whole spot. But
Yes, that's Payday, yes.
It is very exciting to see how they've built upon what Payday 2 is, a very beloved franchise with so much additional content. And they have the same plan for Payday 3 on building upon their foundation. And there was some really cool tweaks to the gameplay, right? Now you can take in hostages and you can actually negotiate with the cops outside and maybe give a couple hostages up to buy you more time, maybe get certain things given to you. But once you run out of hostages, your time is kind of up and it's on and popping, which is really exciting. And there was some really fun ways to play. We went in loud both of the times because unfortunately we weren't that good and we probably needed a tutorial run. But each time the maps looked great. The gunplay was fun. It was hectic, wild, insane situations of passing money bags through the streets of New York, trying to get out of this situation, going on an art heist and trying to check out each piece of art, looking for a certain DNA sample on them to know that's the real art. Like, it was really, really fun. And so I'm looking forward to me and my 3 friends playing Payday 3. It's going to be dope.
I'm really happy that studio has come around. I played Payday 2 ages ago with a group of friends. Like, I can't even remember. That had to have been like a very long time ago. And I just remember because that studio had like all these money problems, right? Like I think they like filed for bankruptcy or something, and there was like legal trouble, and there was just all this chaos. But they've like, I apologize, I'm not remembering specifics, but I'm just very, very happy that they've managed to pull it together and get Payday 3 out the door.
Gonna be exciting. I can't wait. And the year continues to build because there's even more games than what we just talked about. Oh, yeah. But of course, there's one game, Parris, that might not be.
Aww.
And that's Banjo. And we got to talk about it, Parris, because VGC had an article up. Some OG Rare team members say that they're not expecting a new game anytime soon. The question was, is there even an audience for a Banjo game? A lot of people were worried that maybe it's not the biggest and the baddest like many people here on this panel think it is. So, Parris, what's up with Banjo?
First and foremost, I have to say, Britt over at What's Good Games sent a very mean tweet to me about that. And I did not appreciate it. But you know what? I was mean first, so I deserved it. But yeah, I mean, it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer, and I get it. And you know, obviously, I know I'm a huge Banjo stan, and you know, I'm always talking about it because I would love to see it come back. I think it would be a great family-friendly platforming IP on Xbox. But to the article's point and to what he says, I can't argue that. Yeah. It very well may be past its time, because it did not stay in the public eye this entire time. Like I was just mentioning Mario. The beauty of Mario is they've continuously reinvented Mario the past 40 years. Like he has been in multiple genres of games, and that name and that IP has stayed relevant this entire time. Whereas Banjo, we've not had a Banjo game since I think that was 2008 was Nuts and Bolts. So it's been a long time. So there's a whole generation of people that have not played a Banjo game that don't even understand what the Banjo mechanic or the characters or any of that stuff that goes with it. So I get it. I mean, it's obviously a personal thing for me because I was around at the right time in 98 when this game came out. So it's very relevant to me, but it very well may be that this is just simply not the IP or the platformer that Xbox could use, right? It could be possible. I don't want it to be. I do think give it a shot, throw it on Game Pass. Let's see. Psychonauts came back. Psychonauts 2 was great, so I don't think it should be dead. I do think they could create a new Banjo game and at least give it a shot to see if there's a relevant audience out there for it. But I honestly, I can't argue what he said. Very well, it might be true.
Rebekah, where do you fall on that? Of course, we talk about Xbox needing that console platformer mascot. We talk about Psychonauts 2 being so good. Do you see a world in Banjo, and do you have a mascot that you wish would come back? There's so many. Voodoo Vince, Blinks the Time Sweeper Cat, of course, Conquer the Squirrel. Like, what do you think about Banjo and beyond?
I feel two ways about it. On one hand, I think Parris and VGC have it right. We sort of live in this world now where video games have gotten so massive that on the AAA level, on the level we are working on now, if you want to make a game, you need to be able to justify to your shareholders, to your developers, to everybody internally that this is going to make not just a return, but a bonkers return. Like, you better be selling millions of copies. You better be, making all this money off of it. And AAA games are getting more and more expensive to make. They're taking more time. And so if you're going to put all that money in, you better be darn sure that you're going to get that money out. And Banjo, look, I love it. A lot of people have nostalgia for it. But the era of the platformer 3D platformer collectathon has kind of passed. I mean, Yooka-Laylee was fine, and there have been some other attempts, but it's just kind of over. I think we're not seeing that anymore. We're not seeing a high demand for that anymore. Nintendo's kind of got that locked up. And so I think even if a new Banjo game would do well in some hypothetical universe, you're not going to be able to get into a room with people you're pitching to and convince them of that. I think it's a really hard sell. On the other hand, Xbox released Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush, which are not pitches that I think you say, yeah, this is going to sell 10 million copies. We're just going to put it on Game Pass and it's going to become a beloved small game. And so I guess in that sense, sky's the limit, guys.
That's well said right there. I mean, we have seen passion projects or games out of the norm do break loose and really have success on Game Pass, right? And I think that's what a lot of Xbox players look at that is like, well, you have Game Pass. It's not about selling units now.
Exactly.
It could be Game Pass and players and seeing if this is some success. It was interesting in that article of like, could we test the waters with a potential remake, right? Maybe you do remake one of the original games, you put it out there, you see what the vibe is like, and if people pick up on that, especially with Game Pass. But of course, it is with Team Rare, right? They're looking for someone to capture that humor. Maybe they're a little too busy with what they got going on, but Banjo just kind of sits there in this nebulous of what is going on with Banjo. And if it wasn't for Parris, you know, I wouldn't hear enough Banjo in my life. Parris, I got another cool one for you and Rebekah, of course. We have a new Black Panther game on the way.
Yes.
EA and Marvel are teaming up, and we got a brand new studio from EA out of this. So I'll give you some of the rundowns, and I want you to break it down for me, Parris, because I think it's a really rad sounding game and opportunity here. EA's new studio, Cliffhanger Games, is creating a third-person single-player action-adventure based on Marvel's Black Panther. The new AAA studio based out of Seattle is led by Kevin Stevens, Monolith Productions. Cliffhanger has already brought together accomplished talents with leaders from the critically acclaimed and innovative action-adventure game Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, along with veterans of top franchises, including Halo Infinite, God of War, Call of Duty, and others. Kevin Stevens has said, "We're dedicated to delivering fans a definitive and authentic Black Panther experience, giving them more agency and control over the narrative than they've ever experienced in a story-driven video game. Wakanda is a rich superhero sandbox, and our mission is to develop an epic world for players who love Black Panther and want to explore the world of Wakanda as much as we do. It's an incredibly rare opportunity to build a new team around the values of diversity, collaboration, and empowerment." So really special stuff there. Some energy coming out of Kevin and the team, and excitement, right? Black Panther took over the world as one of these special Marvel heroes that we get to enjoy in the MCU and beyond. And when you hear all of that, right, Monolith Studios and Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, I love those open world action games, right? And I can already imagine, man, what is Black Panther going to be in a situation like that? It seems like a good recipe right here. Parris, I know you're really excited about this. Fill me in on the hype and what we need to know about.
Yeah, when I first saw the news about this, I tweeted it immediately that this is a huge opportunity. This is a huge opportunity for that studio and this team. And I've seen some of the roster of people that are already a part of the studio, which is great. It's very talented people, and some of the diversity is there already. My main point on it was, let's make sure that we have people in the room that understand Black Panther, that understand the significance of Black Panther, that understand that not only, to your point, you look how I don't even think the two of you sitting there can understand how important that movie was to me and to the Black community around the world overall when it came out. It was a big deal. It was a huge deal when it came out. And I want to see that same energy when the game comes out. This should be an event that absolutely celebrates not only African culture, but Black culture around the world. And let's make sure, because I got the press release and I saw that they're still hiring people on the development team. This is a great opportunity to have one of the most diverse development studios in the freaking world. And again, make sure that we have people that are helping to make the decisions, that have a voice in that leadership room when this game is being made. And to be honest, that's probably going to be people of color. Let's make sure that we're doing that, because I think this game has such a unique opportunity to really stand out and be a celebration, like I said, of African and Black culture. And the only way you do that is get people in the room that understand African and Black culture, right? So I'm excited. I am. I'm not looking at this as a Debbie Downer or negative or anything like that. I'm looking at this as a huge opportunity for that studio to jump in and make Black Panther that definitive Marvel comic book action game that we all hope and want it to be, but to also be that game that me, as an African-American man, I can look at and be proud of, going, wow, this is representing me. There are people that look like me that help make this game and help make the decisions for the culture of what this game could potentially be. So I am excited for it.
Heck yeah, Parris. I love that. And of course, I'm really excited because they've done a great job with a lot of these Marvel games as of recent, right? After Marvel's Avengers, we have seen a really renaissance in these Marvel games coming to fruition. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, what a great experience.
Really
that team really did a good one. And you bring up Black Panther and the culture and what this could be, exciting stuff. And I love that we're letting teams get in the sandbox and play and create. And it's exciting that EA, of all companies, is creating a brand new studio dedicated to that. That's some really special stuff.
Yeah.
And as Parris said, there's the call. They're still hiring. We're early in development on this. And I hope that so many can come get involved and make this a great game is right.
And let me say this one thing, because again, I know you should not take social media seriously, but this is one thing that absolutely irked me that I saw because of the tweet I made and other people were saying just some of the ridiculous comments. When we say, make sure that you have people in the room that look like me, that are helping make the decision as you're hiring a diverse, talent pool of people that'll be a part of that development studio. A lot of people are like, you just hire the best people. Yes, you do. But you can also make sure that you're hiring a very diverse cast of the best people as well. And I just think that's important, especially for a game like this. It does not have to be, for lack of a better term, that black and white to say just hire the best people. We live in the real world and we understand the significance of what a game like this could be and what it could mean. So yeah, if you truly, what that press release was saying, if you truly want to hire the most diverse studio and talented people out there for that studio, then do it. And there's enough talented people out there that can make video games that it can be diverse. And I'm not talking just people of color. This can be women. This can be LGBTQ. It's across the board. Make this the dopest, diversest studio of all time and make the greatest game ever. That's what I would love to see this Black Panther be.
You're the best, Parris. I love when you bring the real, and I'm so excited about that. Let's finish off today's show with another important one and a really special one coming from Xbox, because Team Xbox has really been elevating safety and guidelines and how players can be and enjoy the ecosystem that they have. And they have a brand new feature coming their way, encouraging more responsible and safe ways to game with voice reporting. I'll give you the details here. Xbox's latest safety feature allows players to capture and report inappropriate voice activity on any multiplayer game with in-game voice chat on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One. Players who experience or witness inappropriate verbal behavior can now capture and report later, minimizing impact to their gameplay. Xbox player reporting and evidence capabilities now cover all content, including text, image, video, and voice, further supporting player safety. The voice reporting feature will be available first to Xbox insiders to gather feedback from the community. The big write-up. While this feature works similar to how you capture game video, any captured clips using the voice moderation feature are only for content moderation purposes. They will not appear in your recent captures, and clips cannot be downloaded, modified, or shared. Only you have access to the clip until you submit it with your report. Xbox is not saving or uploading any voice clips without you, the player, choosing to start the reporting process. The clip lives on your console for 24 hours, giving you the flexibility to either submit immediately or wait until you're ready. We'll also send you a reminder to report if you haven't completed one within the 24-hour period. If you decide not to report, the clip will be erased from your console automatically. We also have made updates to our notification features, so players that submitted the report will get a notification about whether or not Xbox took action on the supported submission ticket. Really special stuff right there. I love that they continue to put safety and positive play at the forefront, and it's fun features like this that the team continues to elevate it and make a safe place to play. Rebekah, I can't talk anymore because I got a cough. Tell me what you think about this.
This is so important, specifically voice chat moderation, like having the ability to do something about that. I have talked about and looked into conversations about how we moderate online play for years now, and voice has always been just like the sticking point for everybody, because you can moderate chat, you can like put flags on certain words to like fully censor them, or like let a moderation team know when they've been said so they can chase them down. You can keep chat records safely, and like people can come back and look at them and say, yeah, someone said something inappropriate. We can get rid of that. But voice is so hard for this exact reason, because people don't want recorded clips of their voices just floating around on a server somewhere for obvious reasons. And, I haven't, what you have here, this press release is all the information I have too. I haven't done any investigating to make sure, oh yeah, they're definitely doing what they say they're doing. They're not actually secretly keeping our recordings. But on its face, this looks like such a wonderful start to cut down on that toxicity. And I think I find this to be not just a conversation about toxicity, but also about accessibility. Because making games accessible for everyone means making sure everyone can play them safely and fully. And I mean, I'll say too, like as a woman with a voice that sounds feminine, you come on and people say crap to you, weird stuff, really inappropriate. And knowing that there is an avenue for flagging that and getting feedback about it. That last little bit about the fact that they'll let you know what they did with your report, that is so important. I want to see what the actual action on that ends up being, because, like I report someone on Twitter and I just get, we didn't find anything wrong with your report, meh, meh, meh. But then like I play World of Warcraft and I report people all the time for crap they say, and I never get anything. It just disappears into the ether somewhere. So knowing that someone looked at it and did something about it means the world and makes me feel safer, and like there are more games that I can actually fully engage with playing, instead of going, well, that's got voice chat that you pretty much need to engage with in order to play online, and so I guess I'm just not going to touch that game.
I'm excited about this one, and I encourage everyone to check it out when it rolls out to everyone in the Xbox ecosystem. Remember, if it's happening to you, you can use this tool, or if you're witnessing it, use this tool. Be able to speak up and be empowered to use this, and let's make this the best it can be, which is really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to you, Team Xbox. We'll keep eyes on this one. But shout out to Rebekah Valentine for joining us on another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast. Rebekah, you are one smart cookie, and you are one awesome person to hang out with. Thank you for schooling me and Parris and the whole world on this big court case going on. And, of course, sharing the fun of video games and Xbox with us onto this episode. You're the best.
You're the best. Honored to be here. Thank you both.
Yes, thank you. And Parris,
Thank you.
It is great to have you back. I've missed you over the week, but I'm excited that you're back. And we have even more fun episodes to go as summer is in full effect here up in the States, and we are having a good time playing a ton of games. So with that, we'll get out of here. We will catch you back here next week. Until then, see you, gamers.